You're about to listen to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly and the author of When Everyone Shines But You, a mental health and self-acceptance blogger and a recovering darkness addict. I have experienced intense anxiety, deep depression and life trauma, but I'm coming out of the other side now. Darkness was a comfort zone for me for a long time, and it felt safer than the light. So in this podcast I share with you my journey into the light and how I move through challenge in an empowering way. I'll share with you tools and nurturing ways to embrace your humanity. I was once a shy, scared introvert, afraid to speak, but that's all changing. Let's take this journey together and learn to fly. Hi there, welcome back to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly Martin and this is episode 104. Now today I'm going to talk about both owning your power and why bowing down to the demands of demanding people is not a good direction to go in. It's interesting that this topic cropped up for me today, especially considering the Western world is doing a lot of bowing down, apologizing for perceived past oppression, perceived present oppression, and so much more. In my own life, I have bowed down a lot in the past. As many of you will know, I never really had a good sense of my own value or worth. My self-esteem used to be very low to non-existent. And due to some early life programming, I was taught that choosing to express myself authentically, following my true nature, was both wrong and to some shameful and embarrassing. So I learned early on to keep my head down, to keep my head below the parapet and become invisible. Reinforced programming continued in my life, and I think in many ways my true voice, my real self, it just got crushed further and further inside of me, where she lived for a very long time in a dark, dank prison. Now, more recently, that has all changed, and after losing my power, or rather giving it away to more demanding and aggressive personalities, I took my power back. I reclaimed my sense of self. I learned my own value and I protect it fiercely now. Now, in the modern Western world, right now, with movements like Black Lives Matter, transgender activism, political activism, environmental activism, all isms basically, there seems to be a very demanding quality to them. A demand that the opposite, or the perceived persecutor, both apologize and literally and physically bow down to the perceived oppressed. And this could be through apologizing publicly, to taking the knee, refraining from expressing opinions through debate, using politically correct, stifling language, or refusing jobs because an oppressed member of a group could miss out on that job because they have taken it instead. There's some examples being this week. Halle Berry, the actress from X-Men and other movies, has apologized to the trans activist movement for taking a job portraying a transgender man. To me, this just felt ridiculous, because acting is acting. And most movie producers will ask a well-known actor or actress to act a role because it gets more bums on the seats in the cinemas, or more people at the box office. But that aside, to apologise and to turn down the role to give others an opportunity or a perceived opportunity is like having a kitchen full of delicious food and not eating it because someone somewhere in the world is living in poverty and going hungry, or in this case is offended. In the UK, we've had politicians taking the knee for the Black Lives Matter movement. Yet, later realising that the movement has some more corruptive ideas about what they want and their intentions, and then these same politicians are having to step back from what they did. And we've had white celebrities apologising on camera, en masse, in a video, in the most virtue signalling ways ever, to profess their apology for white privilege. And we've even had the BBC, the pinnacle of news media around the world, putting down white women in a judgmental way, calling white women Karens as an insult, who they define as pretty much all racist. There are so many examples of bowing down to demanding people or groups right now. I could go on forever. But the point I'm making is apologising and bowing down doesn't end there. If someone or a group is that demanding, they will see this as a weakness and demand more. It's no different to holding someone hostage and demanding a ransom. One day you're apologising. The next day you're on your knees. The next day you're on the floor. And there's no empowering place for you to go from there. In the UK, I watched in horror, like many people, as our London police officers, not all of them thankfully, took the knee for Black Lives Matter in front of a baying, angry mob. Now I understand if you did this in a sacred and respectful way, with understanding, open individuals. But the people in front of them were literally screaming abuse at them. This was submissive, not strong. The rabbit hole of political correctness never ends, and before long, the very same pro-political correctness and pro-woke individuals will be tied up in knots because they too will be limited by the thought police they are part of or helped create. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a soapbox there. But I know how it feels to bow down to demanding and aggressive people, and it certainly doesn't promote balance, harmony, or self-empowerment in anyone. It's taken me 40 years to finally free my voice. If and when anyone tries to control my ability to express myself, I do not bow down. I do not apologise. I do not do what they say. And this is not insolence, it's not arrogance. If I feel I've done something wrong, genuinely wrong, I will apologise or stop it. But if I know I have not, I will not stifle my right to self-expression. As always, it is never our responsibility how another person reacts to who we are. When we begin to change our life script and no longer follow the old script that people were used to, now that script could have been being more quiet or submissive. That script could have been following along with the crowd or family structure. And then when you realise this is not your script, you change it, they won't like it. Some will not care, some will be indifferent, but others will really hate it because if your script changes, they are no longer in control of your message. Now we can bow down as a signal of respect and sacred prayer, or we can bow down because we feel guilty, wrong, bad, or small. What we choose says a lot about who we are at the time. We can bow our head in shame, or we can hold our head up in pride. I choose to hold my head up in pride. People can judge us, misinterpret who we are, but we know who we are, And we can stand proud in that. So are you bowing down or rising up right now? It's definitely something to ponder with what's happening in the world. Thanks for listening to this episode of Kelly Martin Speaks. If you have a question or topic you are struggling with and would like me to answer in an upcoming podcast episode, please get in touch. Your name will be confidential. Email me at kellymartinspeaks@gmail.com or message me on Facebook via my page Kelly Martin Speaks. And don't forget, if you feel that others are passing you by and the not good enough voice is screaming loudly, pop by kellymartin.co.uk to find out all about my books, including book 1, When Everyone Shines But You. And this will soon be out in audiobook also. You can also support my channel via my podcast page on my website, kellymartinspeaks.co.uk, via PayPal, or simply buy me a coffee via Ko-fi. Until next time, bye for now. You've been listening to my podcast, Kelly Martin Speaks. I'd really appreciate your feedback. If you're listening on iTunes, please give me a review. It helps me be seen and heard by those that need it. You can also follow me on kellymartinspeaks.co.uk, where you can read my blogs, find out about my book series, and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. I'm also all over social media, so search for me via Kelly Martin Speaks on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.